Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Islamic Center of Greater Cincinnati. My name is Aziz Rahman. I'm just a volunteer here at the Islamic Center in Westchester. We are honored to have all of you here, despite the beautiful weather. The Islamic Center of Greater Cincinnati has been here since November of 1995. And actually this November, coming up around the weekend of the 7th, is going to be our 30th year anniversary. So it's going to be a busy weekend of celebration and kind of reflection.
You know, I have to be honest with you, when I came here in '67, the families that I knew in, say, late 60s, early 70s, you could count on the fingers of your one hand or two hands at the most. So it was a very small community, but even at that time, it was a fairly diverse community.
There was a small community of four or five families. But the key was they kept themselves together. At that time, Dr. Nadeem Quraishi, he was the pioneer for establishing Islamic Center. A small house he bought, and then in Clifton, we started praying there.
There were very few Muslims. And Dr. Nadeem was here. I was the first Muslim here in the Imam. There were altogether 20 people.
Very few people. In the beginning, I only started giving khutbah, the Friday prayer, in the house in Clifton before it became a mosque. I mean, sometimes in Taraweeh prayer, we had only one line.
I remember the house on Fairview Avenue, and I remember starting Sunday school there. And I think we probably complained about Sunday school the same way my kids complained about Sunday school. But it's a very distinct memory that, you know, here we gathered in this place. Our families wanted to make sure that their children got Islamic education.
I came to Cincinnati back in April 1990. I remember Friday prayers was about maybe 200 people for Clifton Mosque. It was a house actually, and we'll pray upstairs, downstairs, and the basement. And outside too.
We had seen the growth over that 20 or 25 year period. I said over the next 20, 25 year period, that place probably won't be big enough if we continue to grow. So we said the community is growing, the children are growing, increasing in number. We don't have rooms to educate them on the weekend. We don't have enough room for prayers on Fridays and on Eid. So we need to either buy a place or preferably build a place that's larger. One of the things that we did was start looking for land. Primarily, the early Muslim community was clustered around Clifton area. But as time went on, we had satellite locations where a number of Muslim families were living in the suburbs. And we said, you know, if we are going to have a masjid to serve as a central gathering for all of them, it had to be accessible. And we identified the corridor between I-71 and I-75 as the area of our focus to find a spot to build. Shakila Tanveer, Dr. Tanveer's son, he found this 18-acre a piece of land here. Once we looked at it, we bought it and decided to go ahead and build a masjid here.
I had the opportunity of knowing Ahmad Samawi. Ahmad was a big builder of several projects in Cincinnati. He was born in Syria, and then he had his studies in Texas, and then one time, for no reason at all, he came to Cincinnati. It's amazing, okay? And then he bought a house the same day. Came back to his wife, and she asked him, what did you do? He said, I want to move to Cincinnati. It was an inspiration from God. God wanted him to be in that location. So I knew Ahmad.
And they had some children, they moved here, and they wanted them exposed to Islamic teachings. And he did happen to come across Dr. Foad, who was working with me on this project to try to find a place to build a masjid. And Dr. Foad started educating his kids on the basic fundamentals of Islam at his home.
And as a builder, we sought his experience in building the mosque and all that.
We started doing fundraising, but a lot of people objected. There are not so many Muslims worry such a big building. He came to a board meeting. He said, look, I'll work for you, but when I build the masjid, I don't want anybody to come until it's finished, all done. I said, we promise that. He said, give me all the money you have.
And then we said to him, we do not have money. He said, okay, whatever you have, give me, and I will establish the mosque first. So we had $200,000. We gave him $200,000.
He says, well, you have to have at least $1 million with you before we start, and then we'll see how much more it needed. Now, when we presented it to the community, they said, well, we don't have anywhere close to that amount of money. So it fell upon me and a few other people to approach the community members that shared our vision of what a future Islamic center here should look like.
The center has no outside support. And most people, immigrants who come here, they are used to mosques in their country being supported by the government. So the idea that you support a mosque is foreign to them. And you have to educate them and convince them that this is part of their duty and responsibility to do that. And that takes a long time.
And eventually I was able to get a commitment from a number of people to give money over a 3 to 5 year period, which would enable us to come up with $1 million. Ahmad, may Allah bless his soul, I said, well, I'll have my architect that I work with in designing these homes that I'm building. He will be the one designing it. We said, fine. We will give you full authority to do whatever you need to do to design and build it. If you run over the budget, too bad. Then you'll have to come up with the difference. So he said, okay. My father, may Allah bless his soul, he was the senior member of the community, the oldest, I should say. So we asked him to break ground, and he did. The design evolved through several phases. He decided to take the architect to Syria to show him the masajid that were there. He had him made contact with people who could do calligraphy. Eventually, the chandelier that we see hanging in the masjid was actually purchased in Syria. The construction took about 3 years. One of the things he did not want was a basement. He said they're dark, and people who are down in the basement are cut off from the rest of the people. If there's no basement, you have to build another building for those functions that we need. So that's how we came up with the idea of the mirror hall here. Once we started designing it, we said, well, we also have Sunday school that we need to accommodate. So in addition to that, we need to build some classrooms. He said, okay, because he had a vision in his mind that if he's going to build it, he's going to build it top of the line, first class facility, no compromises at any stage. Once it was completed, I said, well, but you know, what about the kids? They want to play and they want to run around. And that's when we came out. This was an afterthought to add the gym, the community center there. So he said, okay, then we'll build a third building. So we started with 1, came to 2, eventually ended up with 3 buildings on the premises. With Allah's blessing and the open heart and the generosity of late Ahmad Samawi, we ended up with a place, alhamdulillah, that's unique for the time. I think it is still unique.
We didn't have volunteers, too many at that time. There were hardly any staff at the center. So the center was pretty much closed 5 days a week. Our challenge was, how do we involve more people in the community? How do we improve more services? And how do we motivate people? This is what we have.
I think the lack of having support, lack of having a community does affect you. I realized as I was growing up how important that was, and I wanted to be a part of it.
Ahmad Sumawi, he said we need to establish a mosque which should be visible from the highway, and people should see that there is a center here. And when it is visible, they say, what is this?
There was some talk that, oh, we're going to have an opening and we need to maybe offer some tours. I had been an orientation leader at the University of Cincinnati. I chaired that program where you welcome students to the university and you bring to bear resources in order to help them be successful. So I thought about it and I raised my hand. And I said, well, you know, I have some experience in this. I think I can help to formulate a guided tour program.
Once we got Clifton, I was the chairperson for Women's Committee. We had a group of women that we got together and we planned the potluck dinners during Ramadan, Eid dinners, fundraising dinners and stuff like that. And we made money, and we were the only organization in the masjid that would give money to the masjid. So instead of taking money from them, we always gave. Because there are women involved in here, that's why I think we really grew.
We have a number of very talented, very qualified women that have and continue to contribute tremendously. One of the things that I was so proud of is that Afrin and I were able to see eye to eye, and she helped to begin basically the roots of our social services program, Rahman, which then grew, and now we have a social services arm. We have a full-fledged pantry. So it starts with a spark, and these women have all lit a spark that has kindled a fire, that has provided the meal.
Then came the Islamic school. The Islamic school is crucial to the future of Islam in Cincinnati. Out of this Islamic school are going to come out a group of people who understand the responsibility and who will carry on the mission.
When we were establishing that school, we had a focus, having great education for kids and great education in Islam. We are having 2 school districts which are excellent school districts, Lakota and then Mason. Who would pay the fee to come to the International Academy? We said, okay, but you don't get Islamic education there. Now we have 300 students and a waiting list of 300. Most of them are well established. That is an indication of good education.
In 1992, I became the director of weekend school. It was still in Clifton, not enough room. So we used to divide the rooms. On Sunday, 3 classes we used to run. We had about 40-45 students. Then in 1995, we moved to this facility. There we found there's more space. By the time I left this, we had 400 students there.
When I moved here about 10 years ago, community was much smaller. We used to pray, for instance, one Jumu'ah, and now we have 3 Friday congregations. We used to pray Eid, 2,000-3,000. I believe the last Eid or two we've had close to 15,000. I feel that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used folks 3+ decades ago to purchase this land, guided them to build this beautiful mosque, guided their hearts and gave them the resources in whichever way to actually make it as beautifully as it's made.
When we were establishing this mosque, people were saying, who's going to come here? Like it's making such a big place. Alhamdulillah, Allah has helped.
The sacrifice that they had at the beginning to establish these institutions, it starts to make sense. Where they take their life savings, they actually sometimes put up their own houses and invested in masajids, just so their children and their grandchildren have a place that they can call our masjid, our community. Those are things that sometimes escape us because now everything is readily handed over to us. We just come in, the building is already set, it's furnished, it has these beautiful mics, these beautiful chandeliers, and we just come in, Allahu Akbar. Oh, I see something here, that something is wrong here. We focus on those little details, forgetting how far we've come. Seeing that today, the same issue, the same problem that they encountered over there, we're encountering the same thing. Are we as bold as them? They've done their job of leaving us a beautiful legacy. We have to leave a beautiful legacy, if not a better legacy, for the future generations, as they did to us. And that's our challenge.
When I came, I was kind of subdued. But after the second Muslim arrived, he was very strong. And he says, I am a Muslim and I'm very proud of it. So I took encouragement from him and I started saying, I'm a Muslim and I'm very proud of it.